The factors that determine who gets primary physical custody of the children, the law favors the parent who will be able to engage appropriately with the other parent. So if you're able to overlook the issues in your relationship with the other parent and make decisions that are in the best interest of the children, the law favors that person as the primary physical custodian. However, I will comment that in reality, most people, I would say about 90% of divorcing couples, have a pretty good idea of who the primary custodian will be. Almost always that's the mother. Increasingly, fathers are the primary physical custodian, but most of the time the parties agree and the mom wants to have primary physical custody and the father is willing to allow that to happen. So most parties start off with that basic agreement. I think it reflects the family structure and traditional cultural values and a variety of other considerations that go into having that be almost an assumption about how the co-parenting relationship is going to start out. I will add, however, that often people want to have a 50-50 timeshare. The reason that 50-50 is sought is not perhaps what you might think, which is each parent wants half the time with the children, although that sometimes is the reason. But when the factor that influences that is child support. Child support is paid, there are basically three primary factors in child support. I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to the issue of primary custody before I get to child support. So often the parties have already decided who will be the primary physical custodian. If they have not decided, the judge will issue a set of temporary orders that will allow for the parenting environment to be defined on a temporary basis. Now, once those temporary orders issue, and once the kids adjust to those temporary orders, it can be exceedingly difficult to change them down the line. So it's very important at the outset that the parties understand what those temporary orders are, what they mean, whether they agree to them or not. It takes time, sometimes a lot of time, months and months and months, for some of these custody issues to be sorted out. So once the kids make the adjustment to the separation of their parents, once they make the adjustment to living with one or the other parent, judges are very reluctant to disturb this newfound stability in order to change the situation again and have the children make another third or so major adjustment in their lives within a year or so of their parents' divorce. So again, this issue of temporary custody during the beginning and the end of the case, and then what's called permanent custody at the end of the case, you really need to carefully consider a variety of factors that are very specific to your family and your case. It's almost impossible to predict the future, especially a year from now. So you can only do the best you can while those decisions are being made, and then see what transpires. So again, careful thought and consideration must be given to those issues. There is a huge impact in considering custody, visitation, and child support. Child support has three primary elements. One is the cash transfer between the parents, which we typically think of as child support. The other one is the payment of daycare. Daycare paid to allow either party to work. And the third consideration is health insurance. If we take the first one, which is the cash transfer between the parents, that is dealt with by a computer formula. The primary elements that go into the calculation are what is the income of each party, how much time each party spends with the children, it's called the timeshare factor again, and then the tax filing status of each parent. I'm abbreviating this. There's a lot that goes into this calculation. There are various ways of dealing with income, with people who aren't working, maybe should be working. There are ways to impute income, which is a way of saying you're not working, but you could be. You have a duty to support your children. So when we calculate how much child support should be paid, we're going to treat you as though you were earning an income. So there's a variety of factors. Now, the connection between custody and child support is when one parent learns that the amount of support they pay is based upon how much time they spend with their children. It's not uncommon to see someone who by custom has not spent that much time with their children to want to suddenly spend more time with them because they think it's going to result in a lower child support payment. That's often true, but when you look at the money that parent spends when the kids are actually in their home, they have to provide a place for the children to stay, they have to feed them, they have to do various other things while the children are with them. I think for the most part, when you analyze the issue looking at all of those factors, not just the cash transfer each month, it's probably less costly to pay child support than it is to attempt to get to a 50-50 timeshare and incur all of those costs. That's an analysis in isolation, only looking at the economic issues. It's completely separate to look at the parenting issues. If you genuinely want to spend that time with your children, then perhaps the economic issues become secondary. But again, when you interview with your lawyer, all of those things should be discussed with the specifics in your case. I'm going to add one more element to this issue. When we start a case and we get to the end of the case, there's temporary orders. The permanent orders, again, they don't mean they last forever. It's just contrasting a temporary period from what's now a permanent or final adjudication period. The court has, even though final orders are made for custody, visitation, and child support, the court has continuing jurisdiction to address custody, visitation, and child support, which means if something changes after you finish your divorce case and you want to change the child support or change the custody arrangements, the court can address those issues because they continue to have the legal authority or power to address those issues. Obviously, that's the way it has to be. You can't have a 5-year-old child and make a custody order and expect that to last until they're 18. The court has continuing jurisdiction until the child is an adult. It's a little bit more refined than that. The court has continuing jurisdiction over the issues of custody, visitation, and support until the child dies, if they die before they're an adult. If a child marries or is emancipated or achieves the age of 18 or 19 while still a full-time high school student. So again, I am briefly describing these issues. There is a lot more detail to look at when you look at an individual case. In order to change custody, visitation, or support orders, 1, 2, or all of those, you must have what's called a change of circumstances. It doesn't mean you get married again or you start to date somebody or you move to a different house. There are a lot of ordinary events in life that will happen. But if there's a significant change in one parent's life, the other parent's life, or the children's lives in some situations, you can go back to court and adjust the orders to fit the new circumstances. And there are a variety of other things to consider. If one parent moves far away and wants to take the children with those are cases called move-away cases. Always very difficult cases because somebody is going to not have a good outcome. Their kids are either going to move far away from them, or the parent who wants to move is not going to be able to move. So custody, visitation, and child support, again, you do the best you can while you're looking at those issues, while you're in court in regard to those issues. The orders can get very detailed about transportation and schedules and a variety of other issues. You do the best you can, and then you really try to work to make the parenting relationship work in the best interest of the children.